Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Michelle Johnson, and I'm the president of UCLA's Black Alumni Association. On behalf of our officers, our board, our members, our donors, community partners, and friends, I want to welcome you to this very historic gathering of African people throughout the diaspora for what can only be described as such a time as this. The peril that we have faced in this country in the last 4 years has exacerbated the urgency of our unification around social justice, around racial equity, and economic empowerment. It has revealed the fissures from which I can only describe as molten hate that has erupted, leaving many of us burned, traumatized, and most assuredly keenly aware of where we are as a country and what we face as a community. UCLA Black Alumni Association is the oldest Black alumni association in the UC system and on UCLA campus. And we have been steadfast in our ongoing commitment to the advancement of our African American students, support of our Black faculty and staff, and the continued development of opportunities in the greater community. From Jackie Robinson and Ralph Bunch to Bunchy Carter and Angela Davis, just to name a few, UBAA has always strove to lead both in the intellect of our minds and in the determination of our clenched fist to effectuate change. You join us today as UBA blazes the trail in our ongoing road to social justice as we use our platform to highlight the voices, the causes, the need, and the demand of our people. That brings us to today. We are deeply honored to have with us the former African Union Ambassador to the United States, Her Excellency, Dr. Arikana Chihombori-Quao. Before we bring her forth, I would like to give the floor to the man who first exposed me to Dr. Arikana to share a brief reflection of the impact that she made on him. Ladies and gentlemen, I, at this time, will introduce my dad, Mr. Michael Johnson.
Okay, guys, I'm not from academia. I'm not a politician, but I'm just a man that's about 75 years old. And I've been in this country all my life. And I've been searching for the reason that we are in the shape that we are in as a people. And bottom line, it's a psychological warfare. This is the problem that we are having with our people. It's a psychological pandemic that has poisoned us against one another because we are following another man's culture, another man's religion, and it is killing us. We have to have a mental declaration of independence. This is what I like about Mama Africa. She exposed me to the truth about Africa. And I try to simplify it as much as possible that as a continent, what we have, when a person comes to a park and he has the ball, he makes the rules. And what we don't understand as a people is that we have all the balls. The resources that the planet needs is in Africa. And once we understand that we have the balls, we can control what we want to do. People will treat us with respect. And we're not going to get respect until Africa gets respect. I don't care where we go on the planet. That's just the way it is. Another thing Mama Africa is going to talk about is ADDI, and that's the African Diaspora Development Institute, which will take in our names and our resumes and whatever our talents are. These contracts will come up, infrastructure contracts will come up in Africa. And we will have first crack at those contracts. This is the same thing that Ellis Island represents for Europeans when they came here between 1895 and I think 1924, something like 12 million of them. And they signed a ledger And ADI is going to be our ledger. It is going to be where our future generations will come and look for our names. So I promote people to join ADI. And people, you got to get this. This is absolutely mandatory. This book is amazing. You will cry, you will be joyful, but it will give you a connection that is missing with the diaspora, especially here in America. We're so lost, it's difficult to even go into it. But I'm honored to be on the program, and I have to thank my daughter for allowing me to participate. So
Thank you, Dad.
thank you.
Thank you so much, Dad. I appreciate your words. What I'd like at this time, everyone, the next voice that you will hear will be our liaison to making this event happen. He's the former president of the UCLA Black Faculty and Staff Association and director of human resources for UCLA's Venice Family Clinic. That is Agrippa Izozo, or Easy. But before we get there, I would like to give him the floor to say a few words, and then we will show a brief video.
Hi, Michelle. Thank you. Thank you very much. I thank your dad also, Mr. Johnson, for the passion that you have. This is what we need. Behind the scene, we have Madam Sylvia Litana Robinson. She is the senior advisor to Her Excellency, Dr. Arikana Chihombori-Quao. And also we have Tunde Obazi, who's our IT person from UCLA, is on the background, doing all the IT work for all of us. So I thank you all. I thank all of you for this event. Our speaker today, I would say, is a blessing to all Black people all over the world. Her Excellency, Dr. and Ambassador Arikana Chihombori-Quao. She is the founder, president, and chief executive officer of ADDI. Her Excellency Arikana Chihombori-Quao, MD, is a medical doctor, having practiced medicine for over 25 years in Memphis, Tennessee. She's also founder and owner of medical clinics. She's a diplomat, a public speaker, educator, and an entrepreneur. She's also an author, and her recent published book, Africa 101, The Wake-Up Call, is a bestseller on Amazon. I really encourage each and every one of us to own at least one book. We are now pushing for every classroom to have that textbook. And some schools have already started using it as a mandatory textbook for their children. UCLA, you should. Don't let history pass you by. Thank you. The video, please.
So that's where you look at where we are today. 135 years later, a system that was put in place to see to it that Africa and her children are forever defeated, that Africa is forever exploited, remains in place today, alive and well. And we sit here and we ask ourselves, why isn't Africa moving forward? Why does Africa continue to be taken advantage of? Well, I'll tell you why, very simply. Until Africa comes together as a continent speaking with one voice, one continent, one people, nothing, and I repeat, nothing is gonna change. As individual little African countries, we are wannabe boxers. We will never make it fighting against the heavyweights. We must speak with one voice.
My name is Sylvia Litana Robinson, and I am the Senior Advisor for Special Initiatives to Her Excellency Dr. Arikana Chihombori-Quao. I'm also the Director for Chapter Formation for ADDI. She has just texted me and said she needs to pull over somewhere safe, and she will be with us in about 2-3 minutes. She didn't anticipate, I guess, the traffic where she was heading and coming from. So on that note, I'll just engage you a little bit and just give you a little bit about who and what ADDI is until Her Excellency comes in. Thank you very much, Dad. I'll call you Dad, for the beautiful introduction that you gave, as well as sharing the book, Africa 101. Yes, that is a classic. It's one of the bestsellers right now that is out there. For those of you who haven't gotten it, you can go to www.ourafrica101.org, www.ourafrica, AFRICA, the number 101.org. And to join our ADDI, please go to our website at www.ouraddi.org, www.ouraddi.org. ADDI was formed by Her Excellency this year. Actually, I believe we registered in May. And the reason for her setting up the ADDI is to carry on from her mission when she was ambassador to the African Union. For those of you who don't know that she, her little bit of a background, she did serve as a 3-term ambassador from the African Union. And then thereafter, when she left, she started this organization. Her mandate was to galvanize the diaspora. And of course, she took that outside the office. And this is where we are today. So with that being said and done, ADDI has been set up so that people like you and I, people of color, in other words, the diaspora, can all be put into one repository, into one mega database. As you know, the diaspora is very vast. There's millions and millions and millions of us diaspora all over the world. So this here is going to be able to allow ADDI, when ADDI receives contracts from the African leaders or from the African countries, so that once they come in, we put them on that database because your name is on there. You will be able to see what we are offering from the African countries. Right now, we had 2 major events. One was how to invest in Tanzania, and the other one was how to invest in the transcontinental corridor that is being built across the breast of Africa. So with these projects coming in, people like you and I, who are the diaspora that do not have direct links to some of these presidents or some of these African countries, will be able to get the facilitation through the ADDI. So what that means is, when you register with us, we do not, and let me repeat this to everybody, we do not share your information with anybody. The reason we are doing that is because this is ours, we own it, and we can't be selling our own information to the outside world. This is something that we are owning by ourselves as diaspora and as of people of color. So once you register, you have options, 2 options. The first option is you register as an individual, as Sylvia Robertson. What's my background, my phone number, my address, and so forth. The second one, you can come in as what we call an affiliate. An affiliate is when you bring your company abc.com, companyabc.org, and you want to be represented both as an individual and as an organization. And let me tell you why you want to do both. As an individual, there'll be projects where individuals will qualify because the only calling maybe for the investment is $10,000. But then as an organization, there'll be millions of dollars that are going to be required for investment. So you stand a better chance to lobby or to put in your name for that bid because you're an organization. So it's imperative that you register first as you, Sylvia Robertson, then as ABC Company. Once you do that, Professor Agrippa is on this call. He is the one that receives all the affiliates applications. And he's the one that sends them to my desk. I process them, send them to the board approves, and bam, you're in the system. When you're registering as an individual, there's no need for verification because we believe that, hold on, let me see if she stopped. 1 second, please. All right, so since she's in-house, let me stop right there. Ladies and gentlemen, since our guest of honor is here, let me leave the floor and hand over the mic to Her Excellency, Dr. Arikana Chihombori-Quao, founder and president of the African Diaspora Development Institute, or ADDI, as others passionately call it, ADDI. Your Excellency.
Thank you, Sister Sylvia. Thank you, Brother Agrippa, to the organizers of the UCLA Black Alumni, of course, to the university, the president of the university, the staff members of the wonderful institution, to the ADDI team that are on the call today, and to all the distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, who are listening within the country and maybe around the globe. Thank you for inviting me to be part of your conversation. I think if I recall what I was told to speak to you all about is an issue that is very dear to my heart. And it has to do with the status of us Black people around the globe. It's an issue that for far too long has just been normalized, even though it is an extremely abnormal situation that we find ourselves living in as a people. Today, this afternoon, we had a webinar where we brought in top lawyers to talk about reparations. I felt very strongly that this is an issue that needed to be given the platform that it deserved. When you look at those who have been abused, those who have been mistreated around the globe, all other races have been compensated. Their suffering has been highlighted. Even the Japanese who bombed Pearl Harbor were given reparations. But when it comes to the issue of reparations to Black people, it's as if we do not matter. So as ADDI, we have decided that we're going to take this issue to the people of the world. Because I realize quite often that the citizens of the various countries are not aware of what their governments are doing, particularly when it comes to Africa, or are not aware of the extent to which racism exists in their own countries. When George Floyd occurred, I felt for the first time in my life, really, that Black people, white people, green people, yellow people, if there are any such people, for a change, we were finally all looking through one window. And for those 8 minutes and 46 seconds, we looked through the same window and we saw the same thing. We saw racism in its rotten face. It took George Floyd being murdered in broad daylight for 8 hours and 46 seconds for others to begin to have just a little bit of a window into what life has been like for us as a race. So we need to take our conversation to the world. And so as ADDI, we are going to be embarking on a series of conversations. The first one was today, where we introduced the issue of reparations. And because we realize that the world doesn't really understand what has been done, the atrocities that have been meted to Black people around the globe, we are going to have monthly webinars where we are going to be educating the world about what has been done to the Black race. In 1 month, we're going to talk about and highlight atrocities meted to Black people in South America. The following month would be Caribbean. And in each region, we are going to talk about what was done and what continues to be done, and what the Black people in that region are going through, and who is doing what to who. We're going to go to Caribbean next and highlight what the Caribbeans are going through and what they've gone through and how they got there. Then we're going to come to the United States, and then we'll go to Europe, and then we end up in Africa, where we wrap it all, starting with where it began and what continues to happen to this day. When we finish with that series, we're then going to draft a document which is an all-inclusive reparations document that's going to come with a global approach to how to address the issue of the abuse of Black people around the world. By the end of the series, we would have highlighted to the world what has been done and what continues to be done. The games that have been played, that the good, well-meaning people of this world have sat and watched, but too many have sat and watched because they did not quite understand what was really going on, which is why we are taking this roadshow to the world to simply say, if you truly believe in living in a just and righteous world, we have got to support reparations for Black people, and we got to put an end to this scourge. What is right, and what is wrong is wrong. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to ADDI. ADDI stands for African Diaspora Development Institute. It is an institute that I put together after leaving the mission as the African Union ambassador to the United States. This mission is designed to be the bridge between the African diaspora around the globe and the motherland of Africa. As long as diaspora have existed around the world, it doesn't come as a surprise that we did not have a single entity that, should the heads of states decide to reach the African diaspora, they could make one phone call and be able to reach the diaspora. All that was by design. It was by design to see to it that Black people are forever defeated, are forever divided, for the sake of keeping us from moving forward with the Black agenda. Started with slaves as they were being taken out of Africa, or rather enslaved people as they were being taken out of Africa across the Atlantic. The rule of divide and conquer was effectively used on the plantations and everywhere where Black people were. The light-skinned Blacks were told you were better than the dark-skinned Blacks. The ones who worked in the fields were told they were inferior to the ones who worked in the kitchen. The rule of divide and conquer was alive and well. On the continent, they took it to another level with the Berlin Conference, where they divided the continent into the 55 tiny little economies we are today. Initially, of course, we were not as many countries as we are. But the whole idea was to divide Africa into tiny little economies that cannot survive on their own. They spent 4 months in Berlin from November of 1884 to February of 1885. In those cold winter months in Berlin, Germany, they got up every morning, sat around a great big old table with a great map of Africa across from them, and they took out their carving knives. And day in and day out, they strategize on how to break up Africa and how to play with the Black mind and how to mess with the Africans in a manner that will see to it, in a manner that would guarantee that Africa and her children are forever defeated and dominated. Allow me to underscore that. If you remember anything from anything that we are going to discuss today, remember, they set for 4 months from November of 1884 to February of 1885, spend those cold winter months strategizing on how to see to it that Africa and her children are forever defeated and dominated. Over 130 years later, the strategy they put in place to make sure Africa and her children will never succeed remains alive and well today. I often talk to some young people who said, but Ambassador, Berlin Conference, that was a long time ago. And my answer to those young people is, as long as there's a country called Djibouti, as long as there's a country called Eswatini, Lesotho, Central African Republic, Congo Brazzaville, all African countries for that matter, Berlin Conference is alive and well. Many games were played. Missionaries were sent to Africa with instructions to teach Africans how to read, but not to reason. To make sure that the African is obedient. They brought Christianity not to teach us a righteous way of life, but they used Christianity to make us obedient to them as our saviors. I often use an example of myself growing up in Zimbabwe. We had our own gods that we worshipped. We understood we could not communicate directly with our gods, so we had our spirit mediums. So that's how we communicated to our higher power. And then the British came as late as 1896. The missionaries followed, and they taught us about Christianity. They taught us about Jesus Christ, a righteous man with great teachings on how to live life and how to live a healthy life among others. Something that was very similar to what we believed in, living and loving one another. The 10 Commandments fell squarely into what we believed in, the pillars of how we should live and relate to each other. The problem came in when they introduced color. First, they taught us about the spectrum of colors, black, white, yellow, orange, pink, all good. Oh yes, this piece of paper is white and this piece of paper is black and this one is pink and orange. And then they said, oh, by the way, the angels are white. They're wonderful beings or whatever they are, but they do good things. You want to be an angel, and this is what going to heaven is all about. It's full of angels, and these angels are white. And then they told us about the devil in hell and all the horrible things the devil does. And if you don't behave, you're going to go to heaven. You're going to go to devil to hell. And then they turned around and said, oh, by the way, while we may not look like this piece of paper, we too are white like the angels. And while you may not look like this black piece of paper, you too are black like the devil. Now let's go to church and let's pray. And we black people just followed. And we go on our knees and we worship the white angels that look like the white people. Stop and think about it for a moment. We did not have these colors before they came. And now we are being told that which looks more like us is not good. That we are black and we look more like the devil. And we should denounce the devil. And we should spend the rest of our lives trying to be something we can never be. That's what Christianity did. Even when you look at the Bible says Jesus Christ had crimson skin. When Mary and Joseph were running away from King Herod, they were told to go to Egypt. Why Egypt? Because in Egypt, Jesus Christ would blend with others who look like him. Had Jesus been white, they should have told them to go to Europe. So even then, a Jesus Christ with crimson skin has slowly changed and has become white. It was all by design to criminalize blackness, to make us feel inferior, to make us believe everything African and black was bad and everything European and white was better. So the journey of playing with the black mind has been going on for centuries. And that journey continues to this day. You see, no UCLA education can decolonize you. No UCLA education can heal you of the legacy of slavery. The onus is on us, elders, to tell the story. The onus is on you all professors to teach the truth and nothing but the truth to the children. The lies that we have been given, the lies that we have lived, why have you not challenged the issue of black and white? Who has seen the angels, if I may ask? Who has seen the devil, if I may ask? Growing up in my village, being a devil was based on deeds. Being an angel was based on deeds. Being beautiful was based on deeds. Being ugly was based on deeds. So I knew, growing up in my village, as long as I was a good child, I went to school, I respected my teachers, I did as I was told, I brought home good grades, I was a beautiful child. In my village, if I listened to my elders, I did my chores. I did what was expected of me at every stage of my development. I knew I was beautiful. I didn't need anybody to tell me every day how beautiful I was, because I knew the box of beauty was well defined. And as long as I checked all the boxes of beauty, I knew I was beautiful. But at the same time, the box for ugliness, the box for being a devil was also well defined. And the minute your behavior starts changing, you immediately moved over to the other box of being a devil, to the box of being ugly. So the police officer who knelt on George Floyd for 8 hours and 46 minutes, that was the personification of a devil. Make no mistake about that. So while the Christians, the missionaries rather, came and told us the lies that they told us, Jesus Christ was a righteous man. Man who spoke the truth and taught us the righteous way to live life. Why are we distorting the Bible for the benefit of a few? It is wrong, and we must understand it for what it is. The onus is on us to understand that as a race, we have been put through a process of brainwashing that was done intentionally. The institutions of higher learning, institutions like UCLA, you have a responsibility to teach the truth. We should not skirt around the truth. We should not skirt around facts. Life as we know it began in Africa. You see, they went to Europe. They just knew life began in Europe. They went to Europe looking for origins of life. They couldn't find it. They went to China. They said, okay, if it's not in Europe, it's got to be in China. They went all other parts of the world. They just knew life did not begin in Africa. And no way in hell life could have started in Africa. Well, guess what? They went all around the world and they could not find the origins of humanity until they came to Africa. Until they came to Africa. And voila, in Africa, they discovered that the Black man and the Black woman are the mothers and fathers of humanity. What's quite surprising then is, instead of putting us at the highest pedestal, the tallest pedestal, we're now being treated as the scum of the earth. There's something terribly wrong with that picture. What's even more wrong is our inability to fight back, our inability to denounce the lies, and our inability to refuse to even incorporate those lies from one generation to the other. It's almost as if we are on some kind of genetic mutation of stupidity, where we just accept the lies as norm, even when we should say, wait a minute, I got a problem with this. We have reverends, pastors, who hang up the white Jesus on the walls and they teach lies, but they know the truth. They just can't stand up and say, wait just a minute, this is just not right. You go to Africa today. I was reading an article earlier this year. The country of Zimbabwe was finally allowed to pick up the remains of their ancestors who were beheaded by the British and taken to UK as trophies. 2020. For 20 years since independence, Zimbabwe was fighting, 40 years rather. Zimbabwe was fighting to repatriate those remains. Across the continent, many African countries are fighting to get remains of our ancestors. Artifacts, thousands of artifacts. They're all over European museums. They refuse to return them. Do we even talk about it as Black people? Of course not. I could go on and on and on about what is being done to us as Black people. It's going on in Africa, it's going on in the Americas, it's going on in Europe. The question then becomes, to what end? ADDI is saying, enough is enough. I am a mother of 5, a grandmother of 5, and the 6th one on the way. I would hope 20 years from now, my granddaughter will look me in the face and she's going to say, grandmother, there were problems with the Black race 20 years ago. There were problems in Africa. There were problems around the world, in the United States. What did you and the other Black people, our elders, do? What did you do, Grandma? I would hope all of us working together, understanding that we are children of one mother, Africa, understanding that we must come together just like other nationalities do, just like the Chinese diaspora, the Irish diaspora, the Jews, the Mexicans, the German Americans, the Italian Americans, they stick together like super glue. We too must stick together like super glue for the sheer survival of our race. I would hope our answer 20 years from now to my grandkids and your grandkids is that yes, 20 years ago, there were issues that had lasted for centuries. But 20 years ago, we were the generation that said enough is enough. We were the generation that says no more shall we continue to be the most disrespected race on earth. So we came together and this is what we did. While the mission is not yet accomplished, this is where you children, you grandchildren need to pick up. And we hope, maybe in your generation, maybe in your time, that we can have mission accomplished. But we will guarantee you one thing: you'll always have our shoulders to stand on. We will guarantee you one thing, that while we are still alive, we will always have your back. And for us to be able to do that, and mean it truthfully, that means our minds must be awoken. That means we must decolonize ourselves. We must unshackle the shackles of slavery. And that starts by understanding our history, knowing who we are, and reconnecting with our anchor. You see, everybody in this United States of ours is a foreigner, an immigrant, with the exception of the American Indians. Everybody else is connected with their anchor, the Italian Americans, the Chinese, the Germans, you name it. We Black people are the only ones who are too busy running away from our beloved continent, Africa. Until we reconnected and are re-anchored with our continent, we'll always be like a fish out of water. We'll always be like a ship with all sails but no anchor. We'll always be like a palm tree. The wind blows this way, here we go. The wind blows that way, here we go. We must re-anchor ourselves back to the motherland. When it's all said and done, we are all Africans. The African Union defines African diaspora as all people of African descent living outside Africa. That means if you were born in the United States, yes, you are an African diaspora. If you're African Caribbean, African Latino, African European, you are an African diaspora. If you're Black, regardless of where you were born, you're an African. Accept that. That is the first major step to true healing. And we all need that. You're inheritors of an amazing continent, if I may remind all of you. A continent that everybody is looking to for everything and anything they could ever need. A continent that still has over 80% of her natural resources untapped. A continent with over 65% of the arable land. A continent with over 70% of the cotton that the world needs. the mineral without which your cell phones could not function, your laptops could not function, the electric cars could not work. That's how powerful your continent is. And you are the inheritors. Do you even realize that? Do you feel it? Do you feel the power that you can have? And the reason they want us to stay divided is because they feel the worst thing that could ever happen to the world is for Black people to unite. Our game is up. We don't have a choice. Our strength is in our unity. ADDI is saying, Mother Africa is calling. And I hope all of you will pay attention to that call. I hope all of you would answer that call. So we can join hands and say, while we might have been in the wilderness for over 400 years, better late than never. We'll join hands and give the world the best melody the world has ever heard as we sing and waltz our way across the Atlantic back to the motherland. I thank all of you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. I believe before I do a Q&A, Mr. Michael John, can you please put up Her Excellency's book while Her Excellency talks a little bit about it, then we'll do a Q&A. For those of you who have questions, please highlight on the right-hand side of your screen, put your hand up, and then I'll call you in the sequence that I see the hands coming up. Your Excellency?
Yes, Africa 101. While I was still the ambassador to the African Union, I realized how much people just did not understand about what was really going on in Africa. I knew I took a chance at exposing what I felt people were not understanding and were not aware of the atrocities and how severe and how significant and the depth of the abuse of the continent by the former colonizers. I ran around the country and all over the Americas. I gave speeches, I did videos, but sometimes I thought I had talked a lot and I thought many people had heard me. And voila, I would go and meet a group that never heard about me, that never heard about the stories that I was telling. They're not stories, real issues. So I felt that maybe I should put all that needed to be told in a book. So Africa 101 is an attempt to really just say to everyone who wants to understand what is going on with the Black race, what is going on in Africa. If you really just want to understand your circumstances, even you, when you have that serious conversation with the image in the mirror, we want you to have a reference point. We want you to feel free and be empowered to question that which you must question. Africa 101 is telling you like it is. This is what's going on. This is what has been done to us. This is how we got to be where we are. But above all, and most importantly, this is what we need to do to move forward. So I hope after you read Africa 101, the wake-up call, that you will be fully awoken. At the end of every chapter, there's a barcode that you can scan and you get to watch a video of me talking about that particular chapter and why I wrote that chapter. I did that for those who are not quite comfortable and don't like to read. I did that for our younger children who are not yet able to read, but you can play that video and they can begin to hear their history. Let's start with them when they're young. They must know nothing but the truth, because that is where we have failed. Our history, the hunted, it's about time for the hunted to tell our story. Africa 101, it's a book that was written for everybody, Black people, white people. It's a book that we are saying everybody must understand what is going on. United as the world, we must say we demand to live in a world that is free of racism, that is free of bigotry and hate. When we continue to perpetuate abuses of one race, we are doing a serious disfavor, not only to the Black children, but the children of any color. This world belongs to our children. We elders have messed it up. We have a responsibility to clean it up. The child from Montana should wake up and say, you know what? I'm moving to Nigeria, and move to Nigeria. The child from Nigeria should wake up and say, I'm moving to Montana, and move to Montana without fear of what the color of their skin, of how the color of their skin is going to affect them. You and I, elders, regardless of our skin color, we have a responsibility to fix this world because we have messed it up for our children. That is wrong, that is wrong, and that is wrong. We have a responsibility to clean this world up for our children and generations to come. Africa 101, the wake-up call. Please get a copy and let's begin the healing that we deserve. And I hope by the time we all finish reading the book, we will be fully awoken.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Some people here are already acknowledging that they've bought your book, and thank you so much for those of you who have bought the book. For those of you who haven't yet had a chance to go to the website, it's www.ourafrica101.org, www.ourafrica101.org. That's one word, ourafrica101.org. With that being said and done, I've seen some hands that have come up. So I'm going to start unmuting you one by one. When I call your name, please unmute. I'm starting with Lori Atwater. If you have a prefix to your name, you haven't put it there, please forgive me. I'll just call the names as you've had put them up yourself. Thank you. Ms. Atwater.
Good evening. Good evening, Your Excellency.
Good evening.
And all of the other attendees. My name is Lori Atwater. My daughter is a senior at UCLA, and I have three other children who have graduated from various universities in the United States. I am an American of the African diaspora. And my question has to do with my role as a developer. I have founded Transformation Village as a commercial real estate development corporation. And this company is developing a portfolio of large scale, mixed use, high rise, sustainable projects, beginning in the United States and California, but very interested in the continent. I have previously identified 3 or 4 projects in different countries. And as I did my due diligence, I came to the conclusion that as a contractor, I may not be paid, or that the conditions of my contracts wouldn't be fulfilled. Your Eminence, I really sincerely want to do projects bringing wonderful, high quality, mixed use villages to the continent. What can ADDI do to ensure that American contractors can come and partner with you in not only building high quality projects, but doing capacity building at each step of the way so that all of those projects can be maintained? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Actually, on Thursday, which was, what's today? Today is Friday?
Today's Friday, yesterday.
Okay, so that was yesterday. We've been quite busy, so I can keep up with all the programs. Yesterday, we actually launched the first Wakanda One City of Return. 2019, President of Ghana, excuse me, been talking all day. President Ghana declared, President Nana Addo of Ghana declared 2019 the year of return. Over 1 million of you all went to Ghana. And as a follow-up for the year of return, President Nana Addo of Ghana has now declared the year of return and beyond. And also, in addition to that, some of you may not be aware but 80% of the Africans who were taken out of West Africa, they were pulled into Ghana. Those who came to North America, they left through a port that is called Cape Coast. Of course, they call them Cape Coast castles. We call them Cape Coast dungeons. President Nana feels very strongly that that very same place where your ancestors last set foot on the African soil, he wants you all to come back and own a home there. He wants a city to be built that's going to be called the City of Return. So the city of Cape Coast, which is really a small town, they have reached out to us, ADDI, and asked us to partner with them for the purposes of realizing this return city for the descendants of the formerly enslaved. To date, they have committed 2,500 acres of land to us, where we are supposed to build residential areas and just grow the city. The plan is to have a resort community with residentials, of course, but develop everything from agriculture. There will be a big airport. There will be a high-speed railway line connecting Cape Coast to Accra, which is the capital of Ghana. Currently, that trip is like 2.5-hour drive. We hope you can do it in less than 30 minutes. There will be a Wakanda park, theme park. There'll be a game park. We are going to develop it to be this futuristic city to the extent that we want to develop it. It's a complete project for the diaspora to build our return city the way we want it. I'm saying this to say, my sister, this is a city that you will be able to build and design. So if you were to say right now, I believe in 30 days, we're going to be looking at another presentation that will begin to show you how far the plans have gone. Yesterday, they presented the preliminary plans, and these plans are going to continue. A team of diaspora architects and engineers are working with the chief engineer, who is in Ghana. They're going to be continuing to develop. What I've told them, what we need a futuristic city, something the world has never seen. We're going to be building an Africa that was once the envy of the world, starting with Ghana. What an appropriate place for us to have received the first piece of land for the city of return. But furthermore, President Nana said, it might have been 400 years that the slavers have won. But when the children of Africa can now come back to the city of return, to the very same soil that their ancestors last set foot on the African soil, to say, we may have lost, we may have failed for 400 years, but ultimately we are the victors, for the journey of return would have been completed. That is huge. So that's one part, my sister, that I think your company can find yourself busy for as long as you live, because the construction that's going to come out of it is endless. We have many other countries that are asking us to come and partner with them, various projects that are available. I believe it was last Sunday, the country of Tanzania, they did a presentation of the project they are calling international projects, where they're saying, we want the diaspora to be the first ones. Tanzania is the first country to do that. They want the diaspora to be the first ones to know about these opportunities, so we can bid for them in advance. What's left for us is to build those collaborations. I'm listening to you about construction. I saw roughly, if I'm just thinking off the top of my head, they're looking at hostels that needs to be built. I'm highlighting this to say, you don't have to worry about whether or not you'll get paid, because we are going to raise our own money. And for those people who are going to get the contracts to build in Wakanda or whatever projects we embark on, you will be paid from those funds that we would have raised. So the control of our money stays with the diaspora. What's going to happen is there's a foundation that's going to have all the money, and SPVs are going to be created for the various projects. So if you're going to be interested in the hotel in Wakanda, then you go into the SPV for hotel building. If you're going to be into residential, you go into the SPV for residential. If you're going to be SPV for commercial, for the railway line, for the airport, for the theme park, for the infrastructure, for building of roads, for monorails, whatever else we're going to have in the community, those SPVs, people are going to be investing in those particular SPVs. So as far as anything to do with ADDI, you never have to worry about whether or not you're going to get paid, because we are raising our own money and we are funding the projects that we are getting, that we're embarking on. Miki, for example, right now, there's a country that's begging me to find a telecommunications company to come and start a telephone company in their country. That is serious money. Serious money. I don't know how many of you have traveled to Africa. Think of the company called MTN. They're everywhere across the continent. People are paying $100 to $200 a month just for internet. You are talking serious money. But anything that we are going to get involved in Africa, we are funding it ourselves. So you will be part of the team, finance team, deciding, but you never have to worry about somebody running off with your money. If they run off with your money, it's your brothers and sisters right here in the diaspora, but you will be in a position to get the monthly reports, to know exactly where the money is going. So you don't have to worry about people in Africa taking your money if you go through ADDI.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Can you also, Your Excellency, highlight, I think there's a question here regarding individuals wanting to go to Africa. I just wanted you to emphasize that it is much more advantageous to them if they go through ADDI, whether they're individuals or an organization. Can you please elaborate on that for them so everybody has a clear understanding from the get-go?
What we are doing so far, for example, in Tanzania, we are partnering with a company called TMS. While we are basically partnering with them for the purposes of them helping us on the ground, applying for these bids that are coming up, we're going to be the first ones to know. But if there's anything else you need, for example, we had a young doctor who wanted to go to Tanzania, but she didn't know where to begin. It's just a phone call to TMS, and TMS will direct us in this group of doctors, and they make the connection. There was a school teacher. She wanted to know how to get connected with education. In her case, it was lower education. We just call TMS, and they'll facilitate getting you the connection that you need. In due course, we're going to have our own offices in Tanzania. Once we have an offices in a country, then you reach us through the offices. But a lot of you are so needed. It's easy to just link you up with local people, but we want to make sure that we link you up with credible people that are not going to take advantage of you.
Thank you, Excellency. The next one is Ms. Jennifer White. Please unmute yourself.
Greetings, greetings, Dr. Arikana.
Greetings.
So glad to see you with UCLA Black Alumni. Glad to see you again. We met last October at the Sacramento Pan-African Trade Conference.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. So glad to see you. My question is about trade, right? So I'm a member of ADDI, have the book, and I'm so grateful that you start all the conversations with the Berlin conference, right? Because it really is about economics. And so what we've been trying to do with my organization, Sister Circle, is really build and develop an economic pipeline between the US and Africa, right? Specifically capitalizing on policies like AGOA, right? Which was created by the Congressional Black Caucus, but African Americans have largely not been at the table, largely been asleep in terms of the benefits, and just trying to create commerce and trade, build relationships on top of the trips that we've been doing to Africa for about the past 13 years, bringing African Americans to connect, build relationships, and connect around business. And I also would like to just position the question in that at UCLA with Black Alumni Association, you're among family, right? So our alumni are very knowledgeable about Africa, right? Our Black Student Union as students at UCLA, from the Black Student Alliance to the Black Student Union to the African Student Union that was renamed back in the 80s, to the African Education Project that was created by students back in the 70s, that is still run by students to this day, to promote Africa, to teach youth about African history and culture and science and math and all these other things, but to understand our Africanness, and we understand it and claim our Africanness. And so again, my question with respect to ADDI is what spaces are there in the organization to really have these conversations about creating this pipeline and creating economic wealth for generations, as you said?
I think we are actually asking a question at a time that is really a beautiful time to engage in such conversations. I don't know if you're aware of the African Continental Free Trade Area, which is an agreement that the African heads of states arrived at in April of 2018. If I may take you just back in history to 1963, when our Pan-African fathers met in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, and ended up with a compromise decision, which they called the Organization of African Unity. The whole idea was to meet and create an Africa that spoke with one voice. The Kwame Nkrumahs of this world, who were the Casablanca Group was Ghana, Guinea, Mali, Egypt, Morocco, Algeria, and Tunisia. They were saying Africa for the Africans, African Union now. They wanted a single, united Africa with one military, one single currency, one monetary policy, one stock exchange, but they failed to reach a decision of such an Africa. And year in and year out, since 1963, the heads of states would meet. The discussion of an Africa speaking with one voice was raised, and year in and year out, they failed to reach a consensus until April of 2018. That monumental decision, which is going to see Africa go to the world market as one customs union, is going to be implemented sometime next year. What does that mean? That means you can register now your company in one country and spread like wildfire throughout the continent. The boundaries that have kept African countries from trading with each other are now being melted. Prior to the Continental Free Trade Area, it's easier for a man in Malawi to trade with a country outside Africa than to trade with, say, Nigeria, because it's very difficult for him to change his Malawi kwacha to the Nigerian naira. That was done by design. Those are some of the issues that go back to the Berlin Conference. African Continental Free Trade Area is saying, time is now, enough of the divisions. So the boundaries are going to be melting away. 90% of the goods traded within Africa are going to be duty-free. So these are major changes that are taking place. We're looking at a continent that's now saying, how do we move, clothe, feed, house 1.27 billion people? Not how do we take care of Nigeria or Kenya or Botswana. We're looking at what do the Africans on the continent need. You can now imagine the massive agricultural projects that are going to come up. You can now imagine the transportation, just highways alone. We don't have the interstates like you have in this country. Think of the interstates in this country times 4. That's what Africa needs. Think of the railway lines in this country. They are not even enough, times 4, because remember, Africa is 4 times the size of the United States. Mm-hmm. All the development that you see in this country, Africa, where Africa is today, is similar to where Africa was in the 20s and 30s. And all that development is going to take place. The Chinese, the Europeans, the Middle Easterners, the Japanese, the Russians, the Indians, they're all waiting for an Africa that's going to be open and easy to do business. Here comes the problem. And that's where I have been trying and hoping that the children of Africa can understand. The building of a sustainable Africa, the building of an Africa that we want, is you and I's responsibility and ours alone. The reason a sustainable Africa has not been built is because the Europeans, the colonizers, were busy building the Africa they wanted. The railway lines that were built were from where the natural resource was to the nearest exit point out of that country. The roads that were built were from where the lumber, the forest was, to the nearest exit point to take the lumber out. Those railway lines and those roads were not built to transport the Africans. They were not built to improve commerce among the Africans. Contrary to that, they have been building the Africa that they want. Unfortunately for Africa, the brain drain out of Africa over the centuries has left Africa without the capacity Africa needs. Rightfully so. There's a need for capacity building in Africa. There are more Nigerian doctors in Los Angeles than in the country of Nigeria. So how do we improve healthcare in Nigeria? There are more Ghanaian doctors in New York City than in the country of Ghana. So how do we improve the healthcare system in Ghana? The same is true in all the other countries. The same is true in all sectors. The engineers, the educators, you name it, they're outside Africa. So while we are talking about this monumental decision, which is the African Continental Free Trade Area, if we Black people, the inheritors of what Africa has to offer, if we do not unite and bring our financial resources together and bring our intellectual capacity and expertise together, those who have the financial resources and the capacity, and they understand Africa more than we do, they're more than ready to come in and build that Cape to Cairo high-speed rail. And we will be reduced to being happy that you're the conductor, you're the driver, and you're the passenger in that train while they own it. You will be reduced to being a passenger in the plane and just happy that now you can move freely around your Africa, but you don't own the airport, you don't own the airline. You'll be reduced to just being happy that now you can wear designer clothes, but you didn't sew them. You don't own the textile mill. You'll be happy that you're living in these big homes in Africa, but you don't own the brickyard. We're at a point that we are the inheritors of what Africa has to offer. There is a seat that is vacant, that is waiting for the African diaspora to fill. If we do not get on the driver's seat of Africa's continental development agenda, others are more than happy to get on that driver's seat. The reality on the ground, my brothers and sisters, let me make this very clear to you. You don't find a Black man or woman driving the development agenda for the Chinese. You don't find a Black man or woman driving the development agenda for the Europeans, for the Mexicans, for the Russians, for the Indians. Therefore, you must not, should not, and golly, will not see non-Black people driving the continental development agenda for the only place that Black people should be in charge, and that is Africa. That is going to happen guaranteed if we do not come together. That's going to happen if we do not occupy the seat that has our name, the African diaspora. This is why ADDI, we're going to run around like chicken without heads, telling every diaspora that needs to know. We are organized now. We are telling the heads of states that you have been given the contracts to build Africa to non-Africans because you had no way of reaching us. Now that we are organized as ADDI, one phone call, and we will get you, the contractors, out of the diaspora. Sister Sylvia, I use her story. She called me one day very upset. Ambassador, my president has given out 3 contracts of power to be built in my country. Why is he doing that? Why isn't he giving the contract to the diaspora? I let her rant and rave and carry on. And when she was done, I said, Sister Sylvia, if you tell me of any diaspora company that you know, diaspora organizations that are organized and they have their funds and they want to get even just one of those contracts, I will call the president and see if he could give you guys that contract. She just burst out laughing. She said, oh, Ambassador, you know, we don't get along with diaspora. We're so divided. And where do you think we're going to get that kind of money? I said, well, I want you to do me another favor then. I need you to go to that part of the country where the power was going to be built. Go tell the 75-year-old grandmother that she has not had electricity all her life, that the Chinese were getting ready to bring the electricity, but they cannot get it because you, Sister Sylvia, sitting in the United States, enjoying the luxuries as basic as access to power, access to water, access to the basic amenities of life, good roads. You are saying to grandma, I don't want you to have any of that because I don't want the Chinese to do it. But at the same time, I'm just too selfish to put my pennies together with my brothers and sisters to bring you electricity. I said, are you even making sense, Sister Sylvia? And she said, you know what, Ambassador? I just never looked at it that way. We are busy complaining. The Chinese are taking over Africa. Well, my brothers and sisters, what are you doing about it? As usual, our brain, we are waiting for the white men to fix it. You see, we have no problems with white men having been abusing Africa for all those centuries. I like what one ambassador put it. He said, you see, I liken what's going on in Africa like us growing up in the village. We had these animals that lived around the village. The hyena understood there are people in the village. So when the hyena comes to the field, the hyena will eat some, but the hyena will always leave some in the field. The lion, on the other hand, eats everything. What the lion could not eat, it destroys. And what the lion can take, the lion takes. That's the difference. The Chinese are equivalent to the hyena. They bring in 50 billion, they take back 30 billion. If the Chinese tell you they're gonna build a bridge, you're gonna see the bridge. If they say they're gonna build a railway line, you're gonna see the railway line. The colonizers, on the other hand, for centuries, they'll tell you they're gonna build a bridge over there. Decades later, that bridge over there is never there. So the question is, what platform are these colonizers standing on? What platform is France, Germany, Britain standing on to warn us about the Chinese? What platform? Are they afraid of competition? They're afraid of the new kid on the block? According to this friend ambassador of mine, she said, my sister, we got problems in the village. We got an old thief and a new thief. They both gotta go. So don't be fooled and be told that the Chinese are coming and taking over Africa. What about them? What have they done all the centuries they've been in Africa? They have never been for the Africans. It's about what they can take out of Africa. And now they want you to fight their war against China. No, the colonizers have never left Africa. They need to go. And they cannot tell us that it's all about China. No, it's about China and it's about them too. It is just that simple. They both gotta go. The old thief and the new thief. It's just that simple. But they can successfully leave if we move in and we strategize and we organize. 1,000 people with $1,000, that's $1 billion. Do you know how much we can do with $1 billion? Now let's do it. Let's make it. I mean, 1,000 people with $1,000 is $1 million. 1 million people with $1,000 is $1 billion. Now let's make it 5 million people. And let's make it year in and year out. You can quickly see how in no time, this Black Foundation, whatever you might call it, is gonna have so much money, just like the Jewish Fund, that we don't need to go to anybody. As long as we're going to somebody, we put up our business plan, then we go to the same people who have oppressed us and ask for funding. Guess what? When you ask for funding, you are giving them all the information about your business. And they get to decide how they can control you. As long as you're still having to go to somebody to fund you, you are not independent, you are not free. No money, no voice. It's about economic liberation. It's about economic empowerment. Let's make no mistake about it. It's not by accident that every motel in this country from New York to LA is owned by the hotel. It's what? It's reason. Why is it that? Because they pull their monies together. They don't even go to the bank to borrow money. If they borrow from their own bank. It's not by accident that all the nail parlors are, in our neighborhoods are owned by the Laotians. They believe in each other. They pull their monies together. 10 of them to a room, but give it 3 months, one is getting out, opening a parlor. They're now a business owner. They trust each other. That is what has been taken away from us. the ability to believe in ourselves and in each other. That has got to change. It starts with the conversation with the image in the mirror. United, my sister, to answer your question, is African diaspora. Let's make a commitment to be on the driver's seat for the African Continental Development Agenda. Now that we are organized, we're going to be reaching out to the heads of states and letting them know before they will consider looking outside for their international contracts, they must come to the African diaspora first, and we will float out the contracts and we will raise our own money to fund those contracts. The objective and mandate of ADDI is to mobilize African diaspora and facilitate their involvement in the development of Africa. That we must do. That you have my personal commitment that I will see to it that we pave the way for easy landing of African diaspora as we go home to build the Africa that we want.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. I will now bring Mr. Kevin Harbour. Mr. Harbour, let me unmute you. Please ask your question.
Oh my goodness, Your Excellency, this has been powerful. It's been enlightening. I'm 63 years old, and I've been waiting to hear this all my life. And I don't believe I'm too old to make the journey. You know, a lot of people my age, we came up, you know, in the 70s and 80s, and, you know, we got educated, and then we raised our children and sent them to the best universities. My daughter's just finishing up her residency at your alma mater, Meharry. And, you know, my thoughts were to, you know, how do we recapture and prevent gentrification over here? But I'm wondering if that really makes sense. What you're saying to me today and to us makes sense. Maybe 3 or 4 times, I'm glad nobody could really see me, I almost started crying. That's the emotion you were bringing out of me. We're tired. We're tired of asking. I'm tired of asking.
Yeah.
So if it's ironic that, you know, we have the education, the capability, we have a work experience, and some of us have a few nickels that we could rub together, and maybe we could make a difference, because then that would endear us. We wouldn't be looked at as Americans. I did my ancestry.com, and, you know, I got Ghanaian blood, I got Nigerian blood, I got Congo blood. I have it, you know, and I'm not afraid.
And you shouldn't be afraid, my brother.
You're waiting for reparations. I don't want to wait. I want to be able to go over there and help with infrastructure, from transportation to energy to broadband to housing to water sustainability to managing these things. There are so many African Americans here that are in positions of leadership that can project manage it. We have Black kids that are engineers that can code. They can do these things. And, you know, from the outside looking in, because I don't pretend to know everything, but if we could help the African countries start making things, then they don't have to go outside for anything. We build the infrastructure and we start making things. Now we're sustainable. And
let me tell you something. Let me just add to what you're saying. 2017, President Trump was addressing the African heads of states. And he said, I don't know why you guys are poor. My friends go to Africa and come back rich. Think about that. You're being told don't go to Africa. I've heard many say, well, what's in it for Africa? These African leaders, they just want to take our money. Far from it, my brothers and sisters. People are going to Africa not because they love Africans. They're going to Africa because there's something amazing and wonderful going on. Before COVID, if you're going to be flying to Africa, 75% of the people in the plane do not look like you and I. If you are within Africa, 75% of the people in those planes, intra-Africa flights, They don't look like you and I. They're not coming to Africa because they love the Africans. They're coming to Africa because something amazing and wonderful is going on in Africa. Black people, on the other hand, are being told Africa is a diseased and dying continent. But we know the truth. 50% of the world gold is in Africa. Gold alone, my brothers and sisters, 1,000 kilograms of gold will give you 60 million. Right now, I just got a proposal for 5 million. You could be 50% owner of a gold mine that's currently producing 50 kilograms of gold a week. That's 200 kilograms a month. They're needing the investment to buy bigger equipment. The mine is capable of producing 1,000 kilograms a month. Even at 200 kilograms a month, gold is going at $60,000 a kilo. Multiply 200 kilos by 6,000, by 60,000. That's 12 million. Now, when you increase that production to 1,000 kilos a month, that's 60 million a month. We're talking minimum things that people could do to make money very quickly. They're going to Africa to do that. They are stealing from Africa in broad daylight. You go to the Congo, you'll see 747s flying into the middle of the jungle. They got tarmacs, they build tarmacs in the Congo, in the jungle. And they're stealing the minerals and flying right out of Africa. Africa is where it's at. I've spoken to many heads of states who said, Ambassador, and I have to keep reminding the heads of states, every time you talk about African diaspora, they only think of African Americans, and I have to constantly remind them, because they'll say, my sister, where are the African Americans? And I'll say, well, Mr. President, you must also ask about the Caribbean, African Latino. They're your children too. But in their heads, they want the African Americans to come home. And they would say repeatedly, why can't they come home and make the money in Africa? They can invest in Africa, then go back to America and play golf just like they do. Because that's what they're doing. They're investing in Africa and coming back to America, to Europe, and playing golf. Well, their money is working for them in Africa. Let's not be stupid. You're going to Africa to build generational wealth, opportunities that will never be awarded to Black people in this country or anywhere on earth. You are in a position to be in front of the line for those opportunities. But that requires collaborations. That requires pulling our funds together to be shareholders in this major. Can you imagine if you're a shareholder of something equivalent to Amtrak, the Cape to Cairo highway, railway line? Do you realize how much money that is? If you can be a shareholder in the Inga Dam, which is going to be built on the Congo River. When the Inga Dam is complete, it's going to power all of Africa and part of Europe. Can you imagine being a shareholder of that? Do you really want to miss out on that? As we speak right now, Egypt, just Egypt, is paying $7 billion to farmers in Ohio, United States. You heard me. Egypt is paying $7 billion to the farmers in Ohio. And that money that should be going to you. You know why it's going to Ohio? Because the infrastructure is not there for the wheat to be grown in Kenya and be ferried to Egypt. Something that simple. So you're going to be on the table to look at it and see what are the corridors that need to be developed. Where do we need a railway line? Where do we need a highway in order to take that contract? My brother, 7 billion, that's a lot of money. Just for wheat from one country. That's before the others. Most of North Africa is a desert. All their food is being grown. All of it is being grown from outside. All their food should be coming from sub-Saharan Africa. But because of the logistics of getting it, they're having to go thousands of miles away. We're talking simple solutions. Commodities from Kenya to go to Central African Republic, they have to be ferried by ship from East Africa, from Kenya, all the way down to Cape Town, and then all the way up the west coast of Africa to Cameroon, only to be ferried into Central African Republic. It's insane. All those logistics, you can be on the table where we can sit back and say, where do we need to start? and which corridor should we develop first. We have an offer at the table right now. It's called the Trans-Africa Value Corridor, and saying the most difficult block to do business in Africa is from East Africa to West Africa along the belly of the continent. The belly of the continent is starting from Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, all the way through DRC, Angola, Equatorial Guinea, Cameroon, Central African Republic, Congo, Brazzaville, Gabon. That whole belly of Africa is impenetrable. We got to open it up. So the plan now is to connect the Indian Ocean to the Atlantic Ocean, starting with a city in Tanzania. And every 200 to 300 kilometers, there's going to be a city which is going to be built based on whatever is going on in the area. But let me tell you how this whole belly is going to be opened up. They've established 3 corridors. This project is called TRAVACO, which stands for Trans-Africa Value Corridor. There's going to be need for the first block is going to be the utility corridor. The utility corridor is going to be made up of companies that are doing nothing but, 1, laying down water pipelines from east to west. That's all they're going to do. So if you're a company that's laying down water pipelines, if we pull our monies together, you'll be working and laying down water pipelines for decades to come. The second one are gas pipelines. The third one is smart grids. The fourth one is fiber optics. You can imagine the many contracts that are going to come out of that. That's just the utility corridor. Then there's the transportation corridor, which is going to involve the building of the railway lines from east to west, the building of highways from east to west, the building of the many airports that are going to come up, the building of bridges. These are all contracts that when you are part of ADDI, you'll be on the table. We have a team of engineers and architects that are already working with organizers of TRAVACO in the planning phase. And now we go to the cities. Everything you can think of that's needed in a city. Cities are going to be built based on agriculture. There could be citrus cities. There could be cotton cities, all the way from growing cotton, all the way to the textile, to the manufacturing of the fabrics, all the way to the fashion industry. Cities are going to be built for manufacturing of building materials. Cities are going to be built based on jewelry, based on manufacturing of electronics, of batteries. There will be so many cities built. You can now, are you beginning to see the opportunities that arise? And you can be on the driver's seat of that development. We are saying we don't mind foreign direct investment to the same extent that we understand that when we go to China, we are behind a Chinaman. When we go to Mexico, we are behind a Mexican. When we go to Japan, we are behind a Japanese. They too must understand when you come to Africa, you are behind an African. And by African, I mean all Black people. It is the right thing to do. It is the fair thing to do. And for that to happen, we have to pull our financial resources so we can also equally compete. But we have a natural advantage. Being African diaspora, the heads of states are listening to us. When we are organized, they will give us the first right of refusal. And for those opportunities we are creating for ourselves, will automatically be on the driver's seat for the Continental Development Agenda.
Thank you, Excellency. I will take some questions from, on the chat here. But before I do that, for any of you who want to get in touch with Her Excellency or ADDI as a whole, you can write to us at info, I-N-F-O, at ouraddi.org, info@ouraddi.org. And for those of you who want to register as affiliates for ADDI, please go on the website www.ouraddi.org, www.ouraddi.org, and register yourself. Once you finish registering, then you can still send in an application to info@ouraddi.org to apply for that affiliate position with our ADDI. First question right here, Your Excellency says, does ADDI have foreign policy, does ADDI have foreign policy positions to inform Biden's US Africa foreign policy? This is from Dr. Jill M. Humphreys.
Well, there is a possibility. Somebody reached out to me to see if I could be, I could participate in some kind of advisory role. I hadn't quite thought about it. I think there's a need for us to engage them because quite often what I can tell you is they don't really understand to what's really going on in Africa. Just to give an example, when I started talking about the Pact for the Continuation of Colonization, I was shocked at even congressmen who had never heard of the Pact for the Continuation of Colonization. They had no clue that France was taking $500 billion out of Africa. No clue. That was shocking to me. To say, here we are, we have AFRICOM, which is the US Army in Africa. It's fighting alongside France, fighting terrorism alongside France. And yet France is the biggest risk to peace and security in Africa. And you don't know what France is doing? So we need to help them. I'm hoping we can reach out to them. My plan is to have a conversation with President Biden when he is sworn in to really try and help them understand what is really going on in Africa. I was shocked. This issue of the Pact of the Continuation of Colonization was a shocker to me. Across the board, I did not, of all the congressmen I spoke to, none of them knew. And the question was always, initially, when I'm talking, they thought I was lying until their staffers would start Googling. And then the next question is, so, Ambassador, what is African Union doing about this? And that's when I wish the ground would just disappear underneath me, because this really is something that African Union should have dealt with right head on. But the fear is real, don't get me wrong. Many African heads of states who tried to pull out of the Pact for the Continuation of Colonization, they found their heads on the chopping block. Either they were assassinated or they were imprisoned and thrown into exile. So the fear is real. So because so many presidents had been killed, it became a no-go area for presidents. So nobody wants to talk about it. You know, just leave it alone. Just so you know, the French had a French desk at the foreign ministry of all their former colonies. They had a French desk in the central bank of all their former colonies. They had a French desk at the presidential palace. And you think those leaders are in control? Far from it. And yet nobody's talking about it. So they need to know that these are some just gross, blatant abuses that have got to stop in 2020. And so, yes, I will be reaching out to them and making sure that they understand what is really going on and not the lies that are being perpetrated.
Thank you, Excellency. I believe she had raised her hand. I just saw it. I just saw the comment. I didn't see her hand raised. My apologies, Dr. Jill Humphreys. Can you please unmute yourself and ask your questions? Sorry about that.
Sure. Thank you very much. First of all, thank you, Your Excellency. I met you a couple of years ago when you were here in Los Angeles. I've had the honor of working in Africa for 32 years, starting in your country in Zimbabwe at age 22. And just most recently was a visiting U.S. scholar teaching in Ethiopia in the north at Arbor Mint, Bahardar University, and in the south in Arbor Minch. My question is this. You know, I've been looking at the way in which what's going on currently in the Horn. I'm very much involved in African university partnerships, help building that capacity, looking at the role of the African Union, of course, the U.S. government's Africa University partnership. But I'm really interested in seeing the way in which those of us here who have these particular skill sets can help build, work in partnership with African countries in terms of maximizing the human resources right there in their own countries to be part of these development projects. So for example, in Ethiopia, many of my students who graduated are engineers, but they're cab drivers because there's no market both within the country or regionally, because I believe that they need to think both regionally as well as globally in terms of looking for markets. And so I'm interested in as to whether or not ADDI's plan is looking at how do you either build both local and regional markets to absorb this great human capacity that's existing in Africa in these partnerships that you're talking about, specifically working with the diaspora. That's the work that I do with the U.S. Africa Institute, and wanted to hear more about maximizing that resource is right there in the ground, right there in Africa.
You actually have a great point, my sister. We always talk about collaborations. I talk about in my home country of Ghana by marriage, those who have been abroad, we nickname them the Bintus. The Bintus, we're the ones who've been to America, been to the UK. We think we're smarter than everybody else. When we go home, we want to have an attitude, and so needless to say, our experience is not always the best, because now that means African Americans too. You are Bintus as well, because you are descendants of the ones who left Africa. So we Bintus, we got an attitude. But we're all talking about collaborations. When we go home, we have something to offer, but we don't go home with an attitude that we know more than everybody else. We are Bintus, we know something that our brothers and sisters don't have, but they also have a lot to offer that we don't know. So we are talking about collaborations. As ADDI, we are going to be collaborating with our brothers and sisters on the continent. As much as possible, we will hire first those who are qualified on the continent, and we supplement with that expertise that's not available in the continent. I can tell you, every one of us are needed. Look at those engineers you're talking about. The problem we are having right now, the Chinese are coming, but they bring their own engineers instead of engaging in skills transfer and hiring locals and training them and bringing them in. Now that's changing. The last FOCAC meeting that that the African heads of states had with China, they put some things on the table that have now resulted in a lot of young people being trained in China. A lot of training sessions are being held throughout the continent. And also more and more heads of states are saying, you have got to hire local. But in the past, Chinese have not been good neighbors. They had come in, bring everything that they need. But because also they're coming in with a lot of money, Africans were not used, African governments were not used to looking for money. And the Chinese would come with the checkbooks and saying how much. They were used to jumping through hoops to get loans out of World Bank and IMF. And Chinese just came in with money. So they took the money and they did not really take the time to negotiate good contracts. So over time, a lot of countries ended up stuck with bad contracts, which really China knew what they were doing. They were not being good neighbors. But the good thing was those that could be canceled have been canceled. And of course, those that couldn't be canceled could not be canceled. And some countries, not many, are suffering dearly because of that. I think most of you must have heard about President Magufuli. He ran off some Chinese out of Tanzania. But so the Chinese issue is a problem in the sense that they're bringing their own expertise, but we have to own that problem because we can stop it. But yes, it's about collaborations with brothers and sisters. That's why we are insisting on being on the driver's seat of all the projects we're involved in. We are on the driver's seat and we control the narrative. The Travaco project, they already have started a training center, which is going to train the young people for the jobs of the future in preparation of the activities that are going to take place in Travaco. So you're quite right. It's about skills transfer, it's about capacity building, and it's about collaborations with what's already, the capacity that's already on the ground.
Thank you, ma'am. Do you have contacts that you can share with us to talk about broadband, energy, transportation, housing, and sustainable water infrastructure development?
Well, that's all going to be depending on, for example, if you look at what we got from the government of Tanzania, it's a whole list of projects that but again, all of them are calling for collaborations. My suggestion to you is become part of ADDI, and the next Invest in Africa is going to be from Zambia. We have several countries lined up. Equatorial Guinea is a very good one. Lots of projects that they're wanting to give us. And so just be part of ADDI. We'll continue to let you know the opportunities that are coming up. And we hope that these are, I'm going to repeat, these are opportunities that are calling for collaborations. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying these are opportunities that should only go to Black people. No, we are only saying we can bring our friends, but they need to know that we are on the driver's seat. That is all we are asking as ADDI, that it is only fair that when we go to Africa as Black people, we are in charge. We are in the front of the seat. We cannot be behind. It's just not right. It's not fair. It's not right. And so we need to just stand up, pull together our financial resources. That's how we take the front row seat, and that's how we stay there. So just join ADDI, and as we send you the projects that are available, you begin to create those necessary collaborations.
Join ADDI, go to www.ouraddi.org, www.ouraddi.org. And for those of you who want to be kept on the ADDI mailing list or text messaging list, please text to 25827 and type in CTOURADDI. I'll repeat 25827. Then in the text message, type in all caps CT, our ADDI, all one word. That will keep you abreast with ADDI's all the meetings and conferences and any activities that Her Excellency as an individual or as ADDI will be doing. Dr. Arikana, can you please speak about our legacy program, ADDI legacy program?
Yes, the legacy program, we're saying we kind of expect our children to know Africa by osmosis. We have to be like the Jews. Before age 18, as a Jewish young man, you can go to any Jewish embassy and say, I'm a Jew, and you're guaranteed a round-trip ticket to Israel. We have to make every effort to get our children to understand Africa, to get to know and love Africa. They cannot just know it from a distance. There's been so much misinformation and propaganda about Africa. It's really not funny. The media ought to be ashamed of themselves. I was at a media summit and one of my girlfriends did ask, why is it that the media lie about Africa and they misrepresent Africa? And one journalist from one of the prominent international news media, he basically flat out said, because nobody challenges us. He said, nobody challenges us. If they challenge us, we'll stop. And it is just that simple. Nobody challenges us. And so we have got to teach our children that Africa is not what Africa is being painted to be. And so we already are in partnership with the Association of African Universities. This is an entity that represents over 400 universities across the continent. Our plan, depending on how much money we have, beginning next summer, we'd like to send a few students to Africa for 1 month, where they can be at the university. They'll stay in the dorm. They'll be assigned to a host parent where they can visit at nights or weekends. But we want our children to experience being in Africa. These round-trip tickets will be given to rising juniors and seniors just for 1 month in Africa. And we're hoping that as the program grows, we can send more and more young people to Africa. So then going to Africa becomes, something that can be done if you wish to, and not have to think of it as a place that you can go and you may end up being eaten up by a lion and may not come back. It's not a jungle like they try to tell you.
Thank you, Excellency. All right, I'll go back to the panel of hands. We got 2 more questions. I have Ms. Adowa and Koma. Hold on, let me just unmute you.
Hi. My question, so I am an African from Continental, from South Africa, and I came here to study. I've also seen a lot of the videos before, and I'm curious about how this institute is linking to those who are like me, who are continental Africans, but have maybe lived in the diaspora and are, going back or living back home.
Well, we are not distinguishing between people like you who are immigrants to the US. Our position is you're Black. If you who are born in South Africa and a sister who was born in Alabama are walking down the street, they see 2 Black women. We're saying we're Black people and our issues are the same. So our approach, we're not distinguishing between a continental African or an African American or African Caribbean. We're saying together, united, speaking with one voice, let's go home. Now, you have a leg up in the sense that you got family members in South Africa, but another subject that I didn't touch on. Today, we did a webinar on reparations. The next webinar, we don't have a date yet, is gonna be on the 6th region. We are pushing for dual citizenship for African Americans. Just so you understand, the issue of the 6th region went through the Executive Council. The three processes of getting things approved at the African Union is the Permanent Representative Council, which is made up of one ambassador from each country. And issues from there, they go to the Executive Council, which is made up of the 55 foreign ministers. And then from the foreign ministers, it goes to the Assembly, which is made up of the African heads of states. The issue of the 6th region did make it through the Executive Council, but it has never progressed to the African heads of states where it can be a decision. When it becomes a decision, we can then become like any other African region of the 5 regions, like ECOWAS or East African Community or SADC. But until we do, we are just a political decision. It's not an official decision that we can be a real 6th region. When we become like ECOWAS, for example, our size is about the same size population-wise as ECOWAS as a region. ECOWAS sends about 14 ambassadors to the African Union who are members of the Permanent Representative Council. We will also be demanding, once approved by the heads of states, to also have 14, 15 ambassadors from the diaspora to go and move into Addis, join the PRC, and begin to advocate for the African diaspora, but more importantly, to join the PRC in charting the way forward for how Africa is going to move forward. So we need to get the region officially approved. But also, one key thing, the document that was approved by the foreign ministers, it classifies African diaspora as all people of African descent living outside Africa, and it stops right there. It is incomplete as is, because it doesn't take into consideration those who were born outside Africa. The document as it stands, it only pertains to those born in Africa. And so we have a serious problem with that as ADDI. So the reparations team of lawyers that we're putting together are going to be adding a phrase, a sentence to the document to say the definition of African diaspora are all people of African descent living outside Africa, regardless of where they were born, and should be awarded the same citizenship status as those born on the continent. We're going to add a couple of pathways to citizenship if you are not born in Africa. And we're doing that because we want to increase the chances of this document making it through ratifications in the various African parliaments. We're going to say, one, you can become, if you're a professional and you work in a country for 3 years, you're now qualified to, you're now on the pathway for citizenship. If you are an investor or you buy a home, like Ghana, for example, we are pushing as we open Wakanda, we are going to be having serious conversations with the president to say, as the children of Africa who are coming home, if you buy your home in Wakanda, you invest in a business, you own a business in Wakanda, you should become an automatic citizen. We will push Ghana very viciously for that one once we get started. So dual citizenship, you also have my word on that one. That one is a touchy one for me, because I personally think that this is a serious, to some extent, abuse of human rights, Africa's failure to acknowledge her children in the diaspora in 2020. There is something terribly wrong. So we want it fixed, and we want it fixed now. I will push for that one as well. It is way past due. All other nations, they have dual citizenship. The Jews, you just need to show up and say, I'm Jewish, and you're in. Why haven't we done that for our children? Do we not realize how damaging this is? I've never imagined what it's like to go through life and you don't know where you come from. I can't even imagine. It wasn't until 10 years ago. I'm talking to an African friend of mine, and she casually said, oh, you continental Africans, you don't have to deal with what we deal with every day, worrying about where I come from. Prior to that, it had never occurred to me that there is such a thing of not knowing where you come from. And so for a second, I sort of pretended how it must feel to not know where you come from. And there was this deep pain that I snapped myself out of it. And then I thought to myself, there are millions of people who have lived their whole lives and never know where they come from. What's wrong with Africa? Why hasn't this been fixed? Why haven't we done something about it? It's not as if we don't know what happened. It's got to be done. There's no two ways about it. I can tell you that one, I will fight to the bitter end. It must be done. So together we can do it. And that's why the next conversation is going to be on the 6th region and the dual citizenship issue. That's another document that's going to come out of our conversations.
Your Excellency, the next question is, what is Her Excellency's reaction to Bill Gates advocating testing a vaccine for COVID-19 in Africa, which has relatively low numbers of cases while the pandemic is raging across the rest of the world? What is your opinion or your take on that?
I think he just hit the nail in the head. We should probably have more of these testings done, in the areas that need it the most. When you look at the numbers in Africa, yes, there are deaths, but the numbers are nowhere near what's happening in Europe and in the United States. So I think it would make sense that the initial testings are done there where they are needed the most. We're also going to need to have testing in Africa at some point for this virus, but I think the initial studies and testings should be done where they're needed the most, and that's in the Western world.
Thank you. Since it's still typing, I've run out of questions. Let me just, Your Excellency, with your permission, let me just give them a little bit of brief on ADDI and chapter formation and how people become members of our organization. For those of you who are interested in belonging to a chapter, we are forming chapters globally. We do have a California chapter, which Mr. Agrippa Izozo is on as well with Alicia Hamilton. Those of you who have an interest in becoming part of the chapter formation for the California chapter, please feel free to contact us at info@ouraddi.org, info@ouraddi.org. Likewise, before Her Excellency came on, I was sharing with you how you could become an affiliate of ADDI. The process is the same. Like I said, you need to go on our website, register yourself as an individual, then register your organization as an organization. Fill in all the blanks, don't miss anything out. Your name, your phone number, or whatever it asks of you, we need that data. And like I assured you when we started, everything is encrypted and none of your information is shared with any third or second or first party. Everything is in the ADDI repository. So with that being said, those of you who would like to also volunteer with ADDI, please send in your request to the same address, info@ouraddi.org. Please attach either a bio, a resume, and your area of interest, because I don't think Her Excellency mentioned this in the beginning, neither did I. All the people that are working with ADDI or in ADDI, we are all volunteers. All the expenses borne to put ADDI together, including the website and everything that you are seeing about the book and everything, came from Her Excellency's pocket single-handedly. None of us have put a kobo, a penny, towards ADDI. The only thing we have done is render our services of our expertise to make this thing happen. So with that being said, I am urging and imploring some of you who can. We have a program that's called $1 a day for Africa. What $1 a day does is it's a total of $365 per year, meaning you and I are going to be donating $1 every day and putting it in the ADDI account. That money is what we're going to start using for or with ADDI for admin purposes. Her Excellency cannot continue putting in money into this project like it's hers alone. She built it for us, so it's your and my obligation now to pick up. The foundation is laid. She didn't ask none of us. She said nobody should put nothing here. I will do it. I'll put it together, and she did. I was there. I've been with Her Excellency since she started this journey. So I'm pleading with each and every one of us. I've seen the beautiful comments that you all have put here, how grateful you are. Some of you are saying you've been waiting for this for a lifetime. One of our brothers as well mentioned, the brother Kevin also said he's been waiting for this for a lifetime. A lot of us have. So please go to our website. There are programs that you can contribute to. We have the youth program, we have the women's program, and the legacy program, which Her Excellency just shared a few minutes ago. Your Excellency, could you please give us a little bit of a rundown on the youth and women's program, please?
What we're planning to do as we go into, by this time, if it were not for COVID, we were supposed to be looking at finishing, or by December, we should have opened 6 ADDI offices in 6 different countries, but we're just having to readjust. But the plan was, as we go into every country, we're going to open our offices, but also give no interest loans to women. The loans would be anywhere from $250 to $1,000. We'll have $100,000 set aside for that. And the same $100,000 set aside for the youth. But we're also challenging the heads of states to match what we bring in for the youth and what we bring in for the women. I know some of you were saying, well, what can you do with $250? African people are very creative. You and I, 250 is dinner at a restaurant. You can take 250 to a woman who can buy, who can start a vegetable garden with that 250. And before you know it, she's got her own supplies. She's got her own space at the market and she's selling what she grows. What can a woman do with $500? A woman can take $500, take $300 and buy a sewing machine. The remaining $200, she buys the first fabric and needle and thread that she needs to begin a sewing business. What can a young man do with $500? $500, a young man can buy an umbrella, a table, and a chair, and the first SIM cards that he or she needs to sell SIM cards by the roadside in downtown, whatever city he comes from. And they can start a business there and grow their business from there. I have seen it with my own eyes. Africans are very creative. They can do so much with very little. And so what you think is pocket change, it's huge money that can make or break a young African. So our plan with the youth program and the women's program is how we are going to enter into any country. As we leave our offices, our staff will be responsible for reviewing those applications, giving those no interest loans. Everybody will be coming from one bank. We'll make sure that we can review them. And everybody who gets this small loan is gonna be linked up with the diaspora in that area that they are interested in as a mentor, just to make sure that they succeed. We want to make sure everybody that gets the money get to succeed at what they're doing. So mentorship is going to be a major part of what we do as well. So that's what the youth and women's empowerment programs are. We will use them when we go into different countries and open our ADDI offices.
Thank you. Last but not least, let me say, UCLA Black Alumni, you rock. You guys are awesome, awesome, awesome. You came through with flying colors. Your questions, the participation, the comments. I wish I could just take all these comments and put them in Her Excellency's phone so she can read them at her own time, but this is fantastic. Last but not least, the last question for Your Excellency from the gentleman who was unable to speak. Let me just pull it up a second. This is from Philip Bruce. Is there a plan to put young Africans to work in the form of importing work to Africa in a similar way that India does? One of the problems in Africa is that we have a lot of people with diplomatic, but they lack experience. I think he meant diplomas, but they lack experience. So is there a plan until we build our own jobs and infrastructure to bring contracts in, even if contractors, I believe, even if it is a customer service job or lab job for scientists or design workers or for engineers?
Yes, actually, to be honest with you, we have the youth already. There's right now a group of youth from all over the continent. They're very good with IT. They can build websites. They can. They're just good at everything. They're good with social media. They have contacted me, but I don't know how to really access those services. So if there's somebody here who can actually look for those services, these young boys are smart. Young boys and girls, young women and men, they're very sharp. And they can do the work for very little, but for them, what you consider very little is huge for them. So if there's someone who would really want to take on that situation where you can mobilize businesses that need services that can be dealt with online with youth from Africa, I would really appreciate it, because I am in contact with them. There are a lot of them who are very good, and that's a service that is needed. So if somebody could start it, ADDI, I would love to work with you and continue to push the young people in your direction. There is a lot that can do. It is needed. And so let me know if somebody can facilitate mobilizing those businesses that could use the services these young people can offer.
And volunteer Tunde Obaze is very good. He can do it. Thank you, Tunde.
I'll let you two brothers deal with it.
Yes.
Thank you. Yes, Yali is already part of us, actually. Thank you. Somebody put a comment in here. We do have somebody from Yali that reps Yali under the ADDI. Thank you so much for sharing. Your Excellency, can you please give us your closing remark, and then I'll close up and hand it back to our illustrious, beautiful host, Michelle.
Thank you. Once again, for us to be able to accomplish what we need to accomplish, it starts with us waking up and cleansing ourselves of the legacy of slavery and colonization. That is the beginning point. If you do not heal thyself, it doesn't matter where you go. You go to the boardroom and you're negotiating on behalf of Africa, you're negotiating on behalf of the Black race, you're negotiating on behalf of your Black community, of your HBCU, of your Black Alumni Association. If you go to the table with a colonized mind, with a mind that is suffering from the legacy of slavery, garbage in, garbage out. Let's make no mistake about that. We have got to cleanse ourselves. We're not being racist. We are simply saying the Chinese, try going, there's a group of Chinese people talking. Try joining them, see if they'll welcome you. There's a group of Indian diaspora talking. Try joining them, see if they will welcome you. There's just a certain code of conduct, a certain camaraderie that they have that's unspoken, but it moves the agenda forward. It's because they're free. They know who they are. That kind of camaraderie is also needed among us Black people. It was destroyed. Let's rebuild it. Picture ourselves as holding hands. It doesn't matter whether you like or love the person you are holding, whose hand to the right and the left. Together holding hands, we are creating a levee that's going to keep the ocean waters from destroying New Orleans. Because if you let go your hand of this one person to your right because you don't like them, guess what? They go down, you go down, and many others go down. So there are layers of how we relate with each other. The top layer being the highest, where we join hands out of sheer necessity for the survival of our race. Enough is enough. We've been underdogs for far too long, and only we can change our circumstances. And that means uniting and speaking with one voice and understanding when it's all said and done. Various layers underneath don't matter, but the top layer that pertains to not only you, but our children and generations to come is demanding that this moment is a moment that we should come together and speak with one voice. So unity among us Black people is paramount, and it is through unity that we have our strength. And it is through unity that we can regain our respect as a race. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. As you heard, Her Excellency, everything African starts and ends at ADDI. And right now we have a push to mobilize 1 million of us. UCLA, I want you to, I'm gonna unmute all of you. Michelle, can you unmute everybody? I need a resounding response so Her Excellency can hear this answer from y'all. Can we galvanize 1 million people before the end of this year?
Yes.
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 There you go.
Yes.
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 Thank you.
Excellent. So
Thank you.
each of you now are being tasked as ADDI ambassadors on honorarium for now until you register. Let's get people, register yourself, your dogs, your cats, everybody in the family. We need to get to 1 million. We were supposed to reach 1 million in November, right, Your Excellency? But we didn't.
That's correct, but I don't think we'll make it. We're far from it, yes.
I know.
It's free to register, but you
Yes.
gotta understand that the more numbers we have, the easier it is to push our agenda. With 1 million people talking, you bet the reparations will be an easier conversation. You bet the 6th region is an easier conversation. Because the more numbers we have, the easier the conversations that'll take us where we need to be. With 1 million people, we can say everybody $10, boom, the project is funded. So really that million is a magic number, but we hope it keeps growing, because once we get to that point, we can call for $1 from everybody. The projects are coming up and we're just funding them left, right, and center. So it's a magic number and it is free to register. So we want you to encourage as many people, go into your phone, into your database, call as many people and tell them to go to our ADDI.org. But don't forget to get Africa 101, because we all need to wake up. Africa101.org.
We're going to be having fireside chats with Her Excellency on her book. I believe Amira Ansah will be sending us the schedule. This is why I sent that CT 5827. I put it in the chat there. Please look at it, take it, and put it in your phones right now before we get off. Because if you don't do that, you're not going to get any information via our website from ADDI. All our communications we give you through your text messages. This is why we provide you for you to text. I'm going to slowly say it, 25827. Text to 25827. And in the text body, please type capital C, capital T as in Tom, capital O, capital U, capital R, capital A, capital D, capital D, capital I. As soon as you type that, it will give you a response like that, an instant message saying, thank you for whatever, whatever. So then you know that you are on there. I will send to Michelle a Telegram link. I'll send it to Agrippa, who shared with Michelle. Also a Telegram link where everything ADDI happens. If you need some information, you missed something, you go to that forum, you scroll up. I mean, anything you need that we are doing with ADDI is posted on there on a daily basis. It's updated to the minute. So please, we would love to see all of you that are on here, because I feel your energy, the enthusiasm, all the comments that you all have put in here. And thank you very much, as usual, to my president and founder of ADDI, Dr. Arikana Chihombori-Quao, for always being so gracious and on time to deliver that which is passionate to her. And now she has infected the rest of us. So we are following until we get this job done. Professor Agrippa, thank you so much for making this possible and for arranging it for ADDI to come and share this information, as well as meeting all the alumni that are on this forum. Again, my name is Sylvia Litana Robertson. Thank you very much on behalf of ADDI. May God bless us all. Michelle?
Thank you so much, everyone. Please put your hands together in appreciation. Your Excellency, we are so deeply honored to have had your wisdom shared today. This has been a life-changing gathering. I know it has been for me. We, as an alumni association, we do the work that we do, but there's so much more we can do. And you have definitely opened our eyes to how we can make those connections in Africa. So we thank you for that. I know we are committed. If I speak for everyone, which I do as the president, we are committed to move forward with ADDI. I want to thank Sylvia and Easy for your help in making this happen. I want to thank my dad for the thought that came to mind. I want to thank Benny Blades for his encouragement as well. We want to thank all of our members and those who have joined today. Think about what Her Excellency has shared and think where you can connect and how we can make this anchor, how we can anchor ourselves back to home. I think that our pain is deep, but what we've heard today has resonated deeper than the pain, and we can begin to make those changes and really become unified again. I want to wish you guys well, be safe as we enter into the winter and enter into 2021, and we'll definitely see you on this road to social justice very soon. Thank you so much for joining us.